Hello, my name is Brandy Hofer, your host and founder of Color Me Happy, a community podcast and book, all of which I started in my in-home studio whilst in the throes of motherhood. I am an artist, author, educator, and mother to 3 beautiful boys. We live and create together in our in-home studio that is tucked away in the quiet Canadian prairies. Our podcast and community was built to empower and inspire. We chat about everything from motherhood, the art world, business, and health in the most honest and authentic way. It's totally unedited and unfiltered. If you love what we do here, become a part of our free community, Color Me Happy. We have grown the community to support our members with features and interviews. Our link is in the notes. Thank you for being here. I sure do appreciate your time. Welcome to Color Me Happy podcast. My name is Brandy Hofer, your host. Thank you so much for being here today. This is a very interesting episode because we talked to occupational therapist Roshni, and she has some very good tips for everyone. And she talks about what her career is and what that means and how she combines her creativity and her creative gift and her multifacetedness with her practice, which is very interesting. She also gives us a look at her practice and what kinds of things she does with parents. And I ask her definitely about having 3 busy boys. And honestly, today, even so, and I'm sure many of you can relate, I'm feeling totally overwhelmed. And even before this podcast that we recorded today, it was just chaos in the house. And to be quite honest, we had a week off school and I have been with the kids and it's just overstimulation, not taking enough, it's not even sometimes about taking time for yourself. Sometimes that's actually impossible. Today I even left on a walk. It was just like, kids are kids and sometimes they fight. My kids fight a lot. There's 3 of them and it's just their age group that they're at. And no matter what you do, no matter how good your routine is, no matter how well you feed them, life can get chaotic and that's... You can just and honestly, I'm so exhausted now from that morning. So there's my doorbell. There's Ted. That just goes to show you with parenting, there's highs and lows. And in life, there's times where we feel overwhelmed. And we talk about this in this episode and ways to cope with those things, like short walks or, just taking time and trying to hit a routine where you thrive in your day. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. I can't even string sentences together. Worse than usual. Thank you so much for being here. We sure do appreciate it. And make sure to join our Color Me Happy community. It's free and it's there for support or to share what you're working on, what you're creating, or how you're weaving creativity into your life. So thank you so much. We'll chat with you soon, my friend. Yeah. So explain to me your your job, because you're creative and you work with children in this very interesting position.
So occupational therapy. I actually used to work with kids and adults, but I prefer I prefer working with kids more than adults, but I work with both populations.
Me too.
And through occupational therapy, there's so much that goes into it, and even more with kids. But I love the aspect that I get to blend being a creative, being an artist, being a friend, being a therapist, being a coach, a life coach. It's occupational therapy is really an umbrella term for a lot of the things that we offer and help and provide.
So explain to me what would be what would a typical person look like that came to you for help?
Service.
Yeah.
So for kids, I see the pediatric population range. I could be seeing birth to age 22, but I particularly like working with the kids that can interact with me and talk to me and hold body language or verbal conversations with me. So the kids that I've typically have been seeing are ones that have autism, ADHD, developmental delay, anxiety, anger management, all sorts of oh gosh, I can't speak.
That's okay.
I'm a little nervous, and you know about that, but yeah. Yeah, some handwriting is a big one, especially if we're seeing kids in the school, but I currently see kids virtually, so I see them through telehealth. And it's really not just the kids. I also work with the parents too, or whoever is their caretaker. It's a whole family dynamic approach, a holistic approach. And yeah, it's fun.
So when did you decide to blend your creative gifts with your position?
I don't know if I decided or it just kind of,
Like when it happened organically?
it happened organically. Even finding this profession kind of happened organically. I've been a therapist, an OT for 13 years now. And prior to that, I was studying on a pre-med track. I actually wanted to go and be a pediatrician. But I found that occupational therapy was a better fit. And even more so, I didn't even know OT existed. I was going from pre-med track to physical therapy. And that was because I had my own accident that I needed rehab for. And I realized that PT was pretty awesome in how they help people. And then one of my sisters actually introduced me to one of her sorority sisters who was an occupational therapist. And I spent a day in the life of her work, which was working in outpatient neuro rehab with adults recovering from stroke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing seeing the progress that these individuals made. And that started my journey and me pushing forward for OT. And the art part of it, it's innate. It's innate in the profession. OT originated through mental health and arts and crafts. And I think that also lit me up, knowing that that was part of the profession and that I could just, be free in creating, and not just for myself, helping others create too, create and heal through creating. And I guess throughout being an OT, I kind of lost the artist side of me for myself. I was always doing it for others, which I'm still doing, but 2020 is where I started realizing I really need it for myself too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a great way to heal. I think it's like a really safe bridge too, where people can meet in the middle. And it just, if they can't communicate like verbally what they're going through, then there's always that like, well, let's create this together. Or really sensitive issues. Like, for example, we did last summer a mural for Truth and Reconciliation. I almost didn't do it because I was like, this is like, not only are we taking on like a community that has gone through, over 100 years of trauma. And then there's racism and a whole bunch of subject matters that go along with truth and reconciliation. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm the right person for this job. Like, it's a really big job. And I'm really flattered that you think I can head something that can help people in this way. And we sat there for a long time, like, how how can we make this possible? Because I believed in the vision of having this 3,000 square foot mural and what it meant, but we needed the right people and the right team, and those things all had to really come together. But apart from that, and what I've always envisioned is like how what's it, we'll see if I F up this quote. Jim Carrey says this really great quote, and it's, how will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. Oh, that's all you have to figure out. Anyways, it's something, don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form, something like that. And I always saw my creative gift being like this larger, bigger thing than just myself. And it was like, it was 2 years of getting it all together and fundraising. And I had the most beautiful people I collaborated with. And it came together organically the way it was supposed to. But that fear and anxiety of the subject matter, it was like creativity was that safe bridge. And it was about building bridges between two communities. And when you talk about truth and reconciliation, communities, it's not just a one-sided thing. Like, communities do have to meet together on a bridge. And so I think art is more powerful than society gives it credit for. How do you feel about that in your like position when you're like, well, we're gonna like create this together to get through this other really big thing?
Yeah, I completely agree that creating offers a safe bridge. And I'm a multidisciplinary artist or interdisciplinary artist. So I feel like I have a lot of bridges that I can connect through. And uh, I've worked with a lot of kids that don't have that verbal skill to express themselves, to communicate. And I think I even grew up that way myself. I was a late bloomer. I didn't have the verbal skills. I didn't have the social skills. I probably still don't have the social skills. I didn't have that guidance and support to understand who I was. So all that didn't show up till later in life. And I feel the kids that I work with in that sense, like they kind of know who they are, but they don't have a way to express it. And there was one kid that really stuck with me. She was very poetic, very expressive, but she was just not verbal. She was nonverbal, but she had assistive technology, and she was able to create her poems through this device and communicate and like say funny things, say raw things, and you're like, whoa, that came from you. What there's a lot of personality and creativity that's just stuck inside that they're not able to get out. And then to find these other pathways, these outlets, I feel help people better connect to themselves enough to express themselves. And one outlet that really helped me connect to myself was and is dancing still. And more specifically, Bollywood dancing. Like, I've done ballet, hip hop, tap, ice skating, but somehow Bollywood and South Asian related dancing is what really made me come out of my shell.
It's pretty fun.
It's fun, but I feel like through all the storytelling, I get to reenact that dance through my perspective. I get to act the dance, and I don't think I've ever felt so free till I started dancing, free in myself,
Wow.
my expression. And I think that just kind of opened the pathway to more expressive forms like photography and painting, and now digital art and web design. And like, there's just so many outlets that I feel like I can truly be myself, be free in myself, but also connect with other people on different levels and different skill sets.
Exactly. And it's so impactful when you work with people and you're like, have you tried this? Or what you see when we work with, I have an art academy and I get the pleasure of working with young people, and it's so cool to see them like thrive in different areas. And that's why we try like clay and photography and writing and poetry, and like their poems are, so many kids are so good at poetry. Like actually, all of them. There wasn't like a bad, not that I would ever say that there was a bad one. They were all like, they blew me out of the water when we did poetry. Like they're so smart, and they're still so in tune with that side of themselves. And there's not a lot of hesitation and fear. That's probably why I like working with them the most, because they're just like, I can try that, sure. And it's so powerful. And I think that if more people in society had that opportunity to connect, maybe as a young person, our society would be very, very different. So what you do is a very powerful position in a job. Even if it doesn't feel like it, like you're impacting people's later lives, like their future selves. Yeah, I truly feel like it's so important to view the world as like, I don't have to be this one thing. And even if I like this one thing and I want to do this other thing, that's okay, or 7 other things. And if I change my mind in 5 years or 2 years or 1, that's okay too, because we're always evolving and learning. And that's what's really cool. And I think if we stop putting ourselves and one another in these molds, then that would just be wonderful. Actually, I know it's really scary to like jump into something else or try something new. Do you have any advice on people who like hesitate or feel um like have imposter syndrome?
Oh man. I was there. I was
Yeah.
there. But I think my personality is have the fear, have the doubt, but do it anyway. I love taking on challenges to better myself, and seeing how far I've come. And it's just, I think that's just how I've been able to move past through a lot of trauma as well. Just telling myself I can do this, I can get past this, if I can put my mind to it. Or as my dad always loved to remind us of, where there's a will, there's always a way. So if you have that determination, that motivation, that light that has sparked your this new path for you, just get to it, find ways to do it. And it can take a day, it can take years, but just be consistent, show up for yourself. For me, what's helped is routine and to-do lists.
Yeah, for sure. And holding on to your vision and knowing that those like little everyday to-dos that feel really small actually like lead up to something larger.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one thing that took me a while to really understand and really hone in on, is that no matter what you do, however big that step is, however small that step is, each step you make is indeed progress. Even a step back is still progress, because you've learned something. You've learned something that didn't work, or you've learned something that you didn't have a skill for, and now you got to take a step back and do a little more research on it. And I try to remind my kids, the parents I see, and even artists that I speak with, like, there is a point in my artist development, in my artist journey, where just taking one piece of paper off my desk and throwing it in the trash can was that step.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes something can be so overwhelming, but and as an occupational therapist, we do this too. We analyze tasks and break them down to successful mini steps. so you can progress further and more successfully with your goal. You can have that high attainment, that high goal, but know that there are many steps to that that will lead you to that progress. And one proof of that is I started being a professional artist, or whatever you want to call that as, but showing up for myself more publicly in, I guess, 2020, 2021. Never did I realize I would ever have like a solo show. And now that's what I'm working towards this year, a virtual solo show, but it's still a step in towards my progress, towards my ultimate goal, of just sharing, inspiring, motivating, and empowering others, kids, women, everybody. Like, I just want to help. I've been there. I've traversed many landscapes, high, low, traumatic, and I'm still doing it, as we all are. But I feel like I now have some knowledge, some wisdom that I'm ready to share to whoever wants to hear it. And I've done it through OT, and the kids are amazing. I feel every time I see progress or smile or some like lit up of like, I did this, like some confidence in them. I was like, oh yes.
Yeah, totally. You spoke about your dad. Where did you grow up?
I am originally from Los Angeles, Southern California.
Yeah, because you said sorority sister, but you're located in Canada now, right?
Florida.
Why did I think you were in Oh, I know why I thought you were, because one of my friends followed you that lived in Saskatoon. I was like, she must be from Saskatoon, and that's all that. So you're in Florida.
From Canada. So
okay, yeah. I know him. No, I'm just kidding. Canada's very big. Okay, so you grew up in LA, you said?
Correct. All
of
LA.
All of LA. That's so interesting. So your childhood was very probably different than mine, because it's so cold here.
Yeah. It was
go ahead.
Weather. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say it was a mixture of weather, very diverse population. And when I say all of LA, because LA is very vast, there's a part of northern LA, central LA, southern LA. I was located in like the heart of LA, Hollywood. So I was surrounded by a variety of art forms. That's probably where that inspiration also came from. So I had theater, dance, music, poetry, like all sorts of art forms. But I couldn't really engage with it enough to develop something out of it. It was more like art 101, photography 101. So it helps to be the occupational therapist I am today, to have those basics. But now, since 2020, I've been trying to develop more of what I really loved back in those days.
Mm-hmm. And like is there not a large creative population there?
Oh no, it's vast.
Oh, really? You would think, like, I would assume, like, as a person who it's like, that's where they, like, you assume Hollywood, it would be like a large creative population working together to create larger projects.
Yeah.
No, not like that at all. I've been there, but only for a week. So it was still very cool. But
yeah, all of LA is immersed with all sorts of creativity. And if you can find that right crowd, you will go very far. But as far as how I was part of it, culturally, my path was told to be different. And art was, great, a hobby, good. You got a skill set that you can utilize on your free time.
So growing up, you felt that like that's not a serious occupation for you and you're not allowed to pursue it, or?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And that's also probably why I halted myself many times. Like I
Mm-hmm.
received feedback from my teachers, like, you got to do this, you need more detail, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to go anywhere anyway. So,
Right. Which
yeah.
I think a lot of people are told growing up, right?
Yeah.
That it's not a career that you can sustain yourself and it's not practical, right?
Yeah. And culturally, I can understand where that mindset comes from, especially from my parents who, we're the first generations. So my parents really wanted to make sure through all of their struggles that, we didn't struggle nearly as much. So, go towards those professions that you would really be respected and paid well and, never have to worry about a job and all that sort. And that foregoed, our passions, our likes, what were we really interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think occupational therapy was like the beautiful blend for me.
It was your life's compromise.
Yeah, and it just blows my mind that it happened organically too.
Yeah. No, that like if you're happy and like it is like sometimes to be creative, there are struggles, but I think there's struggles with any profession that anyone is in ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We have this gift of like having an outlet for creativity, but at the same time, if you can blend it with your profession, I think that's a very happy in between for you.
Definitely. And not only for me, because I can see um the appreciation from those that are receiving what I'm offering as well.
Mm-hmm. Totally gratifying.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, I have so many messages from like different people for the podcast, but were you the person that messaged me about Teddy? Like
Yes.
really long message? Okay.
Oh, was it a long message? I mean,
There were long messages. Yeah, they were great. And I got the jungle gym. Am I thinking back to the right conversation?
yes.
Okay.
Good memory through all the people that you interact with. Yeah.
I just like have like that's why I asked your name and how to pronounce it, because that's why I cannot remember names or like, so I'm like the person who talked about this and what they look like and what they're wearing or what their paintings look like. I can remember all those weird details, but I can't remember like the name. And it's such a strange, like I was talking about it the other day with my co-teacher in Art Academy. And I was like, I can remember that the first time I met you and you were wearing glasses and a black jacket and it was at my lake. And he's like, what? And I'm like, and I remember my husband was wearing the first night we started dating. And like, it was such a weird, but I can't remember people's names. Like it's so frustrating because I know I have a good memory and I just have to learn some better tricks. But yeah, you were messaging about, so did you reach out in the first place? You saw Teddy, like what I was probably complaining about how much energy he had.
Yeah.
And he lacked concentration.
Yeah. And honestly, I have social anxiety, even virtually. So I'm not sure what prompted me to really reach out.
Help me out.
I'm glad it happened. But I probably felt the OT in me like, oh, I know how to help her. So I reached out. I'm like, I do work with a lot of kids that seem a lot like Teddy, and I do have a few strategies for you and tools that you probably could use.
Okay, so what I want you to do is give some tools and like advice. So I was like, because I have 3 boys, and like he's starting to sit down more, which is great. Like he's decided he loves crafts. So he always goes to the neighbor's house because they have a craft bin. And as an artist, I should have a craft bin. I have many things, but they're not like little put together craft bins because that's not how I roll. they're messier. So hers are all organized in a bin. And I talked to her the other day and she's like, I have them that way because I was hoping my two boys would be into crafts and they're not. And Teddy comes over and sits and does them while she cooks supper, which is so cute. So I'm like, but I feel like because it's at someone else's house, it feels like this extra special thing. And it's not here. If it was here, if that same craft bin was here, it wouldn't feel so extra special. I'll try it out. But yeah, like they're overactive, like very stimulated. And I'm quite certain I'm like undiagnosed ADHD creative brain, which makes sense. And I'm quite sure my dad is. And then I'm like, they all are just like me. So yeah, tips for parents who are like, oh, they won't, like, I'm not frustrated by the fact that they won't sit still. I love going outside and but like anytime you try to be like, you over ask children to like help out or sit down for 10 minutes to do your homework, that like those are things we have to and need to do and have to accomplish, in life. Like we have to at some point do some things. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So for such individuals that require a lot of energy, a lot of stimulation, and if we're talking to parents that are trying to get them to focus on an activity long enough, I tend to make sure that parents understand that if they have that lot of energy and they can't sit still for the activity, they're letting you know they need to release that energy still so they can focus better for you or for them. And in order to do that, I like to do a lot of gross motor or heavy work type activities before a more structured, fine motor, sedentary type of activity. And even for adults, that's what we need too. Before we can sit down to work at the computer, we stretch or we have our coffee or, we do our meditation, all those types of things that some kids are not able to grasp just yet. So for them, it would be like play. A gross motor play would be if, we'll do indoors because outdoors there's a lot of weather inconsistencies. Indoors, an obstacle course with things just found around in the home. And I love obstacle courses because you can make them easy, you can make them challenging, you can make them simple, you can make them very complex. You can get so creative with obstacle courses. Obstacle course.
Time them is a good one too. Timing, like making it like competitive, like timing through it. Like once, sorry, I'm gonna interject. Once my sister came over, she's very good at this, and I wish she worked with children, but she's a yoga instructor and she owns a yoga studio, which is great. But I wish she did children's programming because she's so organically, naturally good at it. Because every time we do something with her, she always like off the top of her head thinks of these weird fun things for kids. But she had us do an obstacle course through our whole home, and like even us as adults. So we were versing the kids and who like did it the quickest, which is it was so insanely fun. And at Easter dinner the other night, we had like a drawing competition with different themes. So it was like draw grandpa and everyone got like 3 minutes to draw, and then everyone showed their picture of grandpa, or draw your dream house. Like it's so good when you turn those. It's such great advice you're giving, because it's like turning something that people view as like work or like working out, and it's like, oh, I have to get my workout done, or I have to get the kids to do burn out their energy, and like, so structured. But when you turn it into a game or play, it doesn't feel like it, right?
Correct. Yeah. Speaking of timing, I always like to introduce using a timer.
Yes.
Adults and kids. And I love timers that are not digital, because digital, you're going to get distracted if it's on your phone. But this one, it even has a visual, because kids don't understand the concept of time, let alone adults. But yeah, this helps with learning time, time management, but also creating challenges. And I love that you brought that up, because as we spoke earlier, I love challenges. And obstacle course does take some time and prep for the parents or caregiver to initiate for the kiddo. So if we don't have time for an obstacle course, do something that the kid needs to learn within the house, like a chore or of some sort, sweeping, or, cleaning up the floor. Create that into a game. How much can you sweep into this little square within 5 minutes? Or even helping with laundry. They don't have to fold it, they don't have to put it in the washer or dryer, but they can carry that heavy basket, which is a heavy load type of work, which is making ourselves feel our bodies more, connect to our bodies more, ground ourselves more. When people talk about their kids flying around the house, we're not grounding our body enough to understand where it is. And doing this heavy work, like carrying a heavy basket or a heavy backpack for a lot of
I
people.
always have them put it away. I'm like, I can fold it and I know what's everyone's things are everyone's. I can't even have the cleaners help with laundry because I'm like, they don't know whose all these little things belong to. There's so many of us. But they put it away because everyone knows where their stuff goes. So if it's an organized, like, and yeah, who can put it away the fastest, or when they were really little, and they couldn't really help with laundry, I would count and play hide and go seek in the laundry room while they played around me, which was such a good one. I did laundry like that for years. It was like, because we have levels, so laundry's on the top level of our home. So it was like moving from, the living room, especially in winter, right? So moving to a different part of your home is great. And, or like changing the scenery, I guess, is a really great tool. But yeah, I would count and like I would engage for like 5 minutes and then I would fold laundry for 10 minutes. I call it like time weaving with toddlers and babies anyway. Yeah, it was really great. And then during COVID, we turned our garage into like an extra space because it was so useful. And then when we spoke before in the fall, I was like, I need an extra space for Teddy because he loves to climb. So I got like that wall mounted gymnastics, and then I got a yoga, what are they called? Those like
the socks.
This swing, yeah, like I forget, why can't I think of the name? Yeah, like the big sling for you, and that catches them off the monkey bars, which is great. They pile stuff in it, they go in it together. It's a great new space, and they love playing with like their friends in it. So yeah, changing the scene is a good one.
Yeah. And I do offer tools such as the ones I offered you, like the rock climbing, the swing, the jungle gym type stuff. But a lot of families that I've been working with don't have the space, don't have
money. That was expensive and time consuming and hard to put together. I did not mount it on the wall. That would have been a disaster. But yeah, like I understand that. But there's like for most people, outside is such a great option, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like kids these days don't get enough of what we used to have as kids, playing on monkey bars. I rarely see playground equipment such as the ones I used to have as a kid at schools these days. And I get safety concerns, but a lot of the kids, they're so involved in technology that we're losing this multi-sensory experience in the
or organized sports, right? It's like we have to pay and go. What about organic walks and play and walks through the woods or anything outside? It's so funny because I think I actually can't fathom, and I don't understand. So I run every morning. Nice. And I go for usually like afternoon walks and stuff, and I hang out. And honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. So this like going outside is so important for children and adults. And so I use the pass, and there's quite a few people, in my opinion, not enough on the pass, but I see backyards, right? The pass go through a lot of backyards. And I honestly, like maybe twice a year, I see people in their backyards. Like, I'm not even joking. People aren't even in their backyards.
Same.
A little bit more in the summer, like maybe, but in the, like, obviously it's cold here, but it just blows my mind.
And in Florida, I think even though people have backyards here, maybe they go to the beach more, who knows? But I agree. When my husband and I sit outside and have like our morning tea, like, where is everybody? Are we
I feel like Will Smith and I Am Legend here. Where is everyone? Like,
I mean, it's nice we hear the birds chirping and all that, but like we don't see any humans.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like like we should not live in the confines of walls, or computers or devices. Like, we need silence and connection and quiet with nature. And
and I do see it during like summer or like spring break or winter holidays, but I feel like people just put time constraints and boundaries on when such things can happen, such as doing art. and I feel like we need to just be a little more free in doing what we know is good for our mind, body, and soul.
Like 5 minutes, like you said, you drank your tea outside and you get to connect with your partner that way.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Sometimes we're on our phones too, just getting ready for the day, but we are still outside. We are together. We are enjoying the morning nature around us. And it's a nice routine that I'm glad that we put into place, because throughout the day, we lose ourselves in our work. I like barely say hi or bye to my husband throughout the day. I have to check in on him to make sure he ate something or drank water. And so I'm really glad for that connection during the morning, and that helps have a more positive, more positive outlook for the rest of the day, more positive energy built in too.
I think if everyone wove a little bit of, like, especially with kids, like, it will save you, right? Like, it will save, like, if you go, like, we can't even get into like routine and diet and health and fitness, but the simple task of when I guess you're feeling overwhelmed, or like they're overwhelmed, and like you said, is releasing the energy first before you like expect them to focus or do an activity. I think that's really important. The most important takeaway from this conversation probably is that we all need to release that energy in like you suggested for adults, like your meditation or anyway, and get that fresh air and get all of, like, it's just so I do it all the time, so I know. I'm like, and if you like starting a new habit, right? If you start that new habit, it will just become the thing that you do. You just drink tea in the morning outside or drink coffee, and it will become the thing that you do. But like, you'll start to love it so much that when you don't get it, you're like, oh boy, what's wrong with me today? Oh, I didn't go and get my tea, or I didn't get the kids outside first thing in the morning after they ate, and they're driving me absolutely insane. It's because you didn't go outside today, or I worked at my computer all day and I feel like absolute garbage, right?
Definitely. And I've been wanting to say, I love that you connect with your kids and include them within your artistic process as well. And I'm sure there's times where you need to have it for yourself as well.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like working on a commission right now, like a custom piece, and Teddy's like, I'll color with you. And I'm like, yes, exactly the color. But I did let him for a bit, but it can get frustrating. And in a lot of workshops and like other podcasts or group chats that I do, they're like, we're so happy you said that you're not in there with them all the time, because we don't know how you do that. And I'm like, well, I don't do it all the time. Like,
Yeah.
there are moments for me and there are moments for them, and setting up for when they are in there, or making time. They don't care as much anymore now that they're getting older, right? And life has changed. The seasons of life have changed. I was a full-time stay-at-home parent. Now I work a little more out of the house, so things do change. But I always, like, if they want to, I'm like, yes, let's do it,
And I try to reemphasize the notion that we all need our me time, our time to ourselves,
Yeah.
whether it's 5 minutes or like the full day, whatever it is. Kids, adults, parents, even animals. Like, we all need our me time to just recharge and regroup with ourselves before we can reconnect with someone else outside of ourselves. So when and having that timer helps
Yeah.
for me time too.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh. I cried when they went back to school. Teddy was still here and we were actually having our morning tea on the stairs, but they were gone. And I had been overstimulated so much all summer because there's 3 of them, 3 against 1, right? Like, my partner gets to go off to work, so he's gone all day. And it was just, I cried from relief because I was constantly overstimulated and cortisol was always releasing, and that's not good for hormone health, which we talked about on the last couple podcasts ago. And they're back. But it's like, I still get me time, but like in the summer, just not as much because they're here all the time. But I think it's like a saving grace. And
yeah.
it's just like, so let's talk about that. Like, you have to fit in all these things into one day, right?
Yes. And no. um, I, I provide suggestions, but they're always tailored individually. So I may have told you and other of my clients, like, have you tried a rock wall? And for some, it may not work, again, because financial or space, or just because they're afraid their kid is
Yeah.
too active and they can't control the rock wall portion of it. But so I give suggestions and strategies, but it's up to the family, the parents, the kids to be team players to find out what fits them best. And when you mentioned a diet earlier, there is a sort of diet I like to introduce to my families, and it's called sensory diet. It should be called sensory routine, not to confuse people, because every time I say sensory diet, people automatically think, oh, that must mean food. While it does and may include food, it's also including activities, movements within your day. So for adults, a sensory diet would include working out, having that cardio in your day, just having some sort of movement for your body, gross motor movement. And then as food items, yes, it can include food. And so for me, the sensory diet portion of food that fits for me is stuff that is crunchy. So carrots, apples, cucumbers, those things help keep me alert. they help keep the energy, the anxiety, that stress level, and tailor it to something functional.
Teddy, come say hi. I'm just podcasting right now. I put the sticks away. They're back. I would love though if you put like a few tips together and then I can share it in the notes of the podcast, and that would be amazing.
Could you just clarify tips towards?
Sorry, tips for parents. Let's do the first like tips we talked about. I do like the sensory diet and routine as well. So whatever you feel like that wouldn't take up a ton of time, but like your 3 main tips, like for a good routine, like your top advice as an OT, I guess, that listeners can take away that will impact their lives, and I'm certain in like a really big way. So I do have to go because they are here, and Teddy in particular loves me most. So he always wants to be with me, which is fine because one day he won't. So
yeah. And have you maybe noticed what about you he's really adorned with? Is it
probably because I am the most interesting, because I do the most interesting things, I think. Like I go make art, or I cook food, or I'm talking to people, or I'm like, cleaning the garage or whatever. Like I don't sit still for long periods of time. Yeah. So probably that.
Oh, okay.
He grooves with my groove.
Yeah. I mean, he might take over some of what you have going on too.
That would be nice. Currently, he's the worst mess maker, so that would be amazing.
He's adventurous.
Yeah, that's a kind way of putting it. He is, though. He's very coordinated and like very athletically inclined and a bit of a daredevil. So it's neat to see like what he can accomplish or survive. Like, oh yeah. I mean, knock on wood, but like he went down on this hill and I was quite certain he was wiping out because he hit a dirt ramp, and somehow he like fell off the bike but kept one pedal on and landed, and it was just like he was still 3 and we're just like, what is like, how did he just has like amazing balance. And so like taking that talent and you're like, what would he's obviously interested in like dirt biking, but that's not for me. I'm like, that's like not the path like your parent, that's not really the path I want you to travel down. Dirt biking in particular. In my mind, that's a bit too risky of a sport. But like I'll take him to like the gymnastics class where they do parkour, right? Yeah. Like sign him up for that.
How does he do with that one?
I haven't yet. The other 2 were in hockey, so that's 7 to 9 places we have to be a week. Oh, like occasions. Yeah. So split between us as parents. He'll be in hockey too. But I was thinking in the spring, because hockey will be over in a month, because there's also spring hockey, that he could sign up for the parkour class and see how he likes it.
And for the gym at home, how has that been going? Have you had to intervene or?
Not at all. No. Yeah. He's always, like I said, like been really coordinated. So I'm never like worried about him. It just somehow doesn't fall. Like we've had front teeth knocked out of things and like stuff happened to our kids and stitches, but I actually got them dirt biking helmets so they wouldn't impact their faces anymore. I was like, would you wear these cool looking helmets? And they're like, yeah, we would. And it saved us a lot because they have face protection when they fall. But yeah, I guess finding your children's interests and going with it. But we also are very lucky because we have a huge neighborhood community, which people don't have anymore.
Yeah.
We at one point had 56 school age kids in our whole like crescent. And so there's about 15 that are outside like all the time. So literally we'll get a knock, like for this break, we'll get a knock on the door at like 9 a.m. and they go outside and play with their friends. Like it is, kids don't have that, right? Anymore. We're so grateful.
That was,
Yeah.
that
I
was
put their sticks away because I was mad they were helping this morning. I was like, it was a parent move, but I'm so happy to have met you. I do have to go, and I hope we can chat more one day in the next couple months, and we can get all your wonderful knowledge. And yeah, feel free to chat with me on Instagram anytime. Where can people find you?
Oh, I'm on Instagram too. I have a website. My Instagram is the Desi Rani.
Mama.
I'll spell it out.
It's okay.
TADEZIRANI. The Desi Rani. Or you can look up Radiate Roshni, which means radiate light, on Google, and you'll find all my pages.
Perfect. And we'll include it in the notes. So thank you so much. If you're looking for some time for yourself to relax, release, and unwind, Oasis has the perfect space for you. They offer yoga and spin classes of all levels. Whether you are a beginner or advanced student, Oasis thrives on accommodating all aspects of the practice. Let their serene environment and gracious staff help you in your journey of peace, healing, and strength. Sign up online at www.oasishotyogastudio.com or by downloading the Oasis Hot Yoga Studio app. Feel like yourself. You deserve it.